Folks, when you think about it, one of the most overused terms in sales management is the term coaching. And yet, in reality, sales coaching also happens to be one of the least understood activities that sales managers do. I mean, folks, it's not like we don't talk about the importance of coaching our salespeople. And in fact, most will actually agree that sales coaching is an essential component of driving sales performance. And yet only a very few truly understand what sales performance coaching is. And here's the thing, even fewer have even been trained on how to coach effectively. I mean, let's face it, how many of you listening right now have ever done a coaching course? And I'm not just talking about, the 90-minute session put on by your HR or training department at one of your exec meetings. Guys, here I'm talking about at the very least you've attended a 2-day coaching workshop. So that's what I mean when I say that sales coaching happens to be one of the least understood activities that sales managers do. And by the way, in my online sales leadership membership course, I actually teach the 6 different hats that you as a sales leader must wear. And coach is one of the most critical. How critical? Well, let's take a look at what the research can tell us about the value of effective coaching as a sales management tool, as a lever for driving sales performance. So folks, I'm going to show you a bunch of stats, and I show you these statistics to impress upon you that if you're not effectively and regularly coaching your salespeople individually, then it's costing you sales. So here's a study done by the Corporate Executive Board, which happens to be one of the world's premier corporate research organizations. Now, their regular studies and benchmarking over the last 15 years clearly demonstrate that sales performance coaching contributes to, on average, a 19% increase in sale. That's 19%. I mean, right now, if you had an extra 19, 20%, how close would you be to achieving your sales numbers? But hey, let's not stop here, because maybe a 20% increase doesn't excite you enough. So let me give you some more stats to chew on. A few years ago, there was a landmark and much quoted extensive study completed by the Manchester Consulting Group. And this particular research program was designed to really examine the effects that coaching had on an organization's profit and loss. And here's what it found. It found that the average return on investment for executive coaching was over 500%. And here's just a few of the most pertinent stats with relevance to us in sales. Productivity was up by 53%. Customer service up by 39%. Staff retention 32%. Relationship improvement with immediate supervisors up 71%. Relationships with clients up 37%. Increased job satisfaction up 61%. And the list goes on and on and on. Are you convinced yet? You want more stats? Fine, I'll give you more stats. There was a recent study that was completed on coaching in a Fortune 500 organization. And it was completed by an organization called Metrics Global. These folks reported a 529% return, as well as other significant tangible benefits to the organization. Then, check this one out. I love it. In the most current report put out by CSO Insights, they detail that close on 90% of all sales opportunities never close as forecasted. And then in that same study, they go on to show that those sales leaders who engage in sales coaching are able to increase the predictive accuracy of their salespeople's pipelines by as much as 50%. I mean, imagine that. I mean, that's pretty astounding. Imagine being able to predict with that sort of accuracy those sales opportunities listed in your salespeople's pipelines that will close as expected. I mean, how would that impact your budgeting and planning? Not to mention the impact it's going to have on those last-minute scrambles for sales at the end of the quarter, where you end up having to drop your pants as far as margin is concerned just to hit your quarterly sales numbers. And here's one just last stat just to kind of push you over the top. According to a combined study put out by the U.S. Department of Labor and the American Society of Training and Development, they found that whilst training alone delivered a 22% improvement in productivity, when training was coupled with coaching, it delivered, folks, a staggering 88% productivity improvement. Etc., etc., etc. Folks, I can go on and on. But my goal here is not to bore you with stats, but rather to inspire you as a result of the numbers that you've seen here today, to dive in and begin to coach your salespeople. Folks, when you implement a regular discipline of sales performance coaching, it will help you regain the control of your time and at the same time create a proactive sales culture. We're talking here about 45 minutes per salesperson per week. And you'll be able to lead and manage your sales team the way it should be managed. I mean, I've seen sales performance coaching work in retail stores. I've worked with some of the largest software companies in the country where this works, from industrial equipment to medical devices, from long selling cycles to short selling cycles of just 4 weeks. Folks, if you need results and you need results fast, start here. Sales performance coaching will help you. It will help you to motivate your team, and it very quickly weeds out failures. You know, when you start sales performance coaching your people regularly, you will absolutely begin to reduce the amount of sales reports that you have. I have one particular client, get this, who's reduced her sales reports to 1 sheet of paper, which takes her people 10 minutes a week. Guys, if you are struggling to get your salespeople focused and out there generating new business, coaching is a terrific vehicle to ensure that it gets done. If you want to, say, develop a proactive sales culture, again, sales performance coaching is a brilliant tool to drive that process. Folks, you might not realize this, but right now, one of the greatest vehicles that you have in your business to generate additional sales are your top producers. Because when you apply good sales performance practice, you can take your A players to A+ levels of performance. Think of the kind of income that would generate. I'm going to give you a sales coaching tactic that, at a minimum, will increase your sales by 15% in the next 90 days. Now, here's what I know about this tactic. Number 1, it works brilliantly for anyone who uses it. Number 2, you don't even have to be very accomplished in order to do it. And hey, folks, I'm telling you, I've seen this technique butchered and yet still achieve results. If you want to see a dramatic turnaround in any aspect of your business, whether it be increased revenue, behavioral change, cultural change, this tactic's going to do it for you. So you're probably going to want to write this one down. Ready? Okay. Minimum, once a fortnight, you sit down with each of your salespeople one-on-one for about 30 to 45 minutes, and you do these 2 things. Ready? Unpack in detail the week or the fortnight that has just gone past. And when you've done that, help your salespeople to plan the next week or the next 2 weeks coming up. Folks, that's it. Unpack in detail the week or the fortnight just passed, and when you're done with that, help your salespeople to plan the week or the next 2 weeks coming up. Folks, please don't be fooled by the simplicity of what I've just laid out here for you. I mean, the Google homepage isn't exactly complicated. The beauty of this tactic lies in its simplicity. So what I mean by in detail? Well, when most salespeople plan their week, how do they plan their week? Well, we know they do this mainly reactively. The fact is, even in the most successful corporations, planning itself actually is very poor. Very few sales organizations run proactively. And as a result, very few salespeople manage their time well and their resources proactively. So when you sit down weekly or fortnightly, one-on-one with your people consistently, you watch how being better planned really helps to drive better results. And also, obviously, it stands to reason that if you unpack the week that's just gone by in detail, it stands out like a sore thumb as to where your salespeople have gone wrong, what they're doing, or rather what they're not doing. And you very quickly start to get on top of things. So I want you to take what we call the 90-day test drive. So if you will commit to running this little process with your people for the next 90 days, minimum once a fortnight, you watch how much traction you start to get. Pilot it over the next quarter. Choose 2 or 3 people and just work with them, just like I've explained to you, and watch what will happen. But you must commit. Don't just go hard for a month and then, you get busy and things start to happen and you start rescheduling and bumping your salespeople off for other appointments. If you want to get the results that I'm promising you, write it in stone. I mean, here, take a look at one of my clients who sell mining industrial machinery. I mean, what did he say? He can't believe it. He's gone from $300,000 behind budget to banking over $320,000 a month in sales just in the one state in the last 90 days. And this is as a result of sales performance coaching. But seriously, if you just follow my advice and unpack the last 2 weeks or the last week and plan the week coming up, you watch the sales traction.